You unlock this door with the key of imagination. Beyond it is a different show, a show of sound. I'm smart, Mike, I'm smart, see? A show of sight. A show of mind.
Time is a flat circle.
You're moving into a show of both bad jokes and substance, of previews and trivia. You've just crossed over the Vikings Report with Drew and Ted. Drewster, how are you?
Oh! I am in the Twilight Zone for episode 36, Ted Glover.
Yes, we are. And it's
great intro. What a great show.
It's Happy October. I mean, for a lot of people, Halloween is the holiday they celebrate the most. So we're going to have kind of a Halloween-themed October, and we're kicking it off with the Twilight Zone. So, yeah, I hope you guys like it. And I don't care if you do or not, because we're going to keep doing it. Toonces, how are you?
I'm doing good. I have a joke to start off October.
Okay.
Joketober, let's go.
Joketober, here we go. What do the Minnesota Vikings and Billy Graham have in common?
What?
Probably a lot.
They can both make 70,000 people stand up and yell, Jesus Christ.
And with that, what time is it, Drew?
It's time for I'm cooler than you are. So why don't you fix your little problem and light this candle?
That's right. Light the candle.
He's right. Resume the countdown.
Yes.
All right, I'm cooler than you are. Why don't you fix your little problems and light this candle?
He's right. Let's light this candle.
He surely is. Light the candle.
Yes. Resume the countdown.
We are off and running with episode 36. I want to throw a quick note out there before we start. Say thank you to Christopher Gates. That was a record-setting show last Sunday on our live show, Vikings Rewind, after the Cleveland Browns game. Ended up being our second most watched episode since we've been on the air from January all the way until now. So take a bow.
Awesome.
You three did an awesome job, especially you, Ted. It's not easy hosting those live shows. You got the comments coming through. You got a host. You got to, and it's a tough thing to do, and I appreciate your effort, man. I just want to throw that out there to get going.
Thanks. You guys make it easy. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I love doing the show. Love doing this show. Love everything about Vikings Report. Love the audience. Love the feedback. Love all the comments and everything else. So thank you everybody so much. It's nothing without you guys tuning in and watching and commenting and giving us feedback and sending us trivia questions.
Yes,
and all that good stuff.
Thank you for tuning into our live show and also our studio show. You know what our most viewed show is, Ted?
I think it's still our first one, isn't it?
No, it's the one that, remember the cheerleader from the Vikings did the promo for us?
Yeah.
Jennifer, that's our most watched.
Really?
Not surprising.
Way to go. So we have an audience full of perverts is what you're telling me.
I've seen it a few times. Only a few.
So we got a big show ahead of us. We got Vikings news. We got our Drew question of the week. We got our fantasy football segment and update between us and the guys over at Vikings Uncensored. And, of course, our game preview and trivia coming up. We got Jumo. We got the Purple Kool-Aid. But before we get going, what was your favorite Twilight Zone episode ever?
It's a tie. It's a three-way tie. Of course, Anthony Fremont, when he turns a guy into the Jack-in-the-Box. Oh, you're real good, Anthony. That's my favorite, along with who could forget 20,000 what was it called? 20,000 feet in the air, the Nightmare in the Sky with William Shatner.
William Shatner, yeah.
When he lifted the window thing and the guy's face was there.
Yep.
Pretty frightening moment from my childhood. First off, Twilight Zone was one of my, besides Wild Wild West with Robert Conrad, Twilight Zone was my favorite show as a kid. So those two episodes, and it's got to be another tie between The Eye of the Beholder with the really hot chick, but they think she's ugly.
Needle, please.
And they all have the messed up face.
Yep. Right, and Monsters on Maple Street. I love that one.
Oh, where the whole town goes nuts and they start. Yes, yes.
Out there, walk right over us, would you? Well, some of us won't.
That's
Those
like the blackout. They think it's aliens. Yeah.
And they shoot the guy in the street, the farmer Ned.
Yep.
What a great idea for a show.
It
was. And they redid it, but they're terrible. Those new ones suck.
Yeah.
I'm just always going to be a fan of the old ones, but I'm a big fan of that show. A big fan.
I would add 2 episodes. One, Burgess Meredith as the bookworm. Remember that nuclear war, and he's got the thick glasses, and he gets all his books set up, and then he breaks his glasses, and he can't read any of them. He's got nothing but time.
That's not fair.
And then To Serve Man. It's a cookbook! It's a cookbook!
The rest of the book, To Serve Man, it's a cookbook.
I think that was Lurch. That was Lurch from the Addams Family who played that tall guy with the weird head.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, all those ones you mentioned. And then the one, Telly Savalas, Kitty Carryall. I'm Kitty Carryall, and I don't like you very much.
My name is Talkie Tina, and I'm beginning to hate you.
That was creepy, man. That one creeped me out.
He put it in the trash can, then when he lifted the lid, it wasn't there anymore.
I'm Kitty Carryall, and I'm going to kill you.
What about the one when the people were in the barrel? In the whole episode, they're trying to get out of that barrel. And at the end, there were dolls in like the Salvation Army dolls inside the toy container.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The ballerina, and everything. But you didn't know during the show. You go, what the hell are these people doing?
Or the couple that had been, they're like in this town, but there's like nobody there. And everything is like, it's like a prop. And it turns out they're in a big aquarium for an alien kid or something.
Right.
Oh, that's creepy.
They got him that train and it kept going past the same thing.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. If there's a Twilight Zone marathon, I just hit record and watch them, and it's a great show. All right. We're moving to Vikings news. We're putting the Cleveland Browns loss in the rearview mirror as best we can. We're going to refer to it a couple times, but if you want to hear our immediate thoughts, check out our Vikings Report Rewind episode we had right after the game. Be kind, rewind. It was the October 3rd episode with Drew, me, and our new Kaiser Sose, Christopher Gates, our usual gang of suspects. Anyway, so we're moving on from that. One of the things that's sort of come up, because the Vikings offensive line was terrible again. They had looked pretty good for a couple weeks, and then, bam, they just were back to their old ways against the Browns. Everybody was terrible. Kirk was pressured more often than he wasn't pressured in that game. And the Vikings, we thought they had addressed that problem in the offseason. They drafted Christian Darrisaw and then guard Wyatt Davis out of the Ohio State University, one of their 3 third-round picks. But, Drew, they really haven't played a whole lot. Before I get to my point here, let's just go over. We're going to talk about Christian Darrisaw, who was only active for the first time this past Sunday against Cleveland, and he saw the field on special teams, and he lit it up, let me tell you. He was just blocking. Third-round pick, Kellen Mond, has been active for all 4 games. That's understandable as a rookie quarterback. That one really doesn't bother me a whole lot. Chaz Surratt has been inactive for 1 of 4 games, but has played very little. Wyatt Davis was inactive against the Browns this past weekend, was active the 3 previous games. Again, he hasn't played at all either. Patrick Jones has been active 3 of the 4 games, and the 1 game he was active, he didn't play. I've always been told that your first, second, and third-round picks are guys that you can expect to start or significantly contribute within a fairly short period of time. That's not happening, especially guys, Davis and Darrisaw, who are guys that were desperately needed on the offensive line. What do you think's going on there?
I have no idea. I mean, is Wyatt Davis hurt? All credit to Ollie Udoh, the job he's done this year, but if you can't beat that guy up, then why do we draft you? I mean, no, you were supposed to come in and be the starter. I don't know what his deal is, and Darrisaw, I hope Darrisaw isn't just a chronic injury staring us in the face, but none of the draft picks have contributed, Ted, and I'm kind of old school like you, thinking the first 3 rounds are guys that you want to get in there and play.
Well, and especially when you look at a guy like Chaz Surratt, linebacker.
Great preseason he had.
Great preseason. We both, when we were doing our draft previews back in the offseason, if you go back and check those out, we were both pretty high on both Chaz Surratt and Patrick Jones II. I think I even said Patrick Jones II was going to be starting at defensive end. And when you look at the lack of scintillating play from both the linebackers overall, I mean, Nick Vigil started out strong, but he didn't play well against Cleveland. Neither did Eric Kendricks, for that matter. And you look at defensive end other than Danielle Hunter, Stephen Weatherly hasn't been all that great. DJ Wanham hasn't been great. Everson Griffin played well in week 3 against Seattle. But you would think there would be opportunities there for those guys, and they still aren't seeing the field. And I go ahead. I don't know why.
I don't know why either. There's a lot of things the Vikings do I don't have an explanation for, to be honest with you. And one of them is the draft class. I mean, out of those 11 guys, nobody's really even done anything. They got run over by Cleveland. They get people that say, well, Drew, they're certainly going to struggle against the teams that have the better defensive lines. Well, that's great. Let me look here on the schedule. They're good. They're good. They're good. Oh, wait, there's a bad defensive line. There's another. Okay, there's 3 on here. So we're going to win 3 freaking games. I don't understand that. They're going to struggle against good defensive lines. It shouldn't be. That shouldn't be the thought process. It should be we can game it up with any defensive line. That should be your outlook. Not you're going to struggle against the good ones. Why do we have to struggle against the good ones?
You know, that's a good question. And Darisaw is now healthy, and I get they got to let him sit a week or two, and a lot of people are speculating, well, they'll start him after the bye week, which they have in 3 weeks. They've got Detroit this week. The game we'll preview here in a little bit. Then they go to Carolina, and then they got their bye. And after the way Rashad Hill played, I would argue Detroit, you know, they've got some injured guys on their defensive line, which we'll get to. I would think Christian Darisaw, maybe not start, but at least get some action and get some game time in, just to see if he can knock the rust off and if he looks like he's getting ready to play.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of start him with maybe 15, 20 snaps or whatever and prime him up and get him conditioned to take on the starting role. Rashad Hill is a lifetime backup offensive lineman. And you can send me comments and say, Drew, you're an idiot or whatever. He's a backup.
Hang on. I'm going to get ready to text you and tell you that you're an idiot because you just said I could.
What are you?
An idiot sandwich.
Idiot sandwich what?
An idiot sandwich.
Go for it.
Okay, you are.
I'll add you to a list of hundreds. But when it comes to picking those fantasy football players, I'm not such an idiot, am I?
Well, don't spoil the surprise. We'll find out. You said something just a little bit ago that we have touched on before, and we are having a hard time making heads or tails of a lot of the personnel decisions the Vikings have made over the last couple of years. And once again, it feels like that's coming home to roost again with these early draft picks. Now, take Kellen Mond out. He's a third-round pick, quarterback, not supposed to play, not even active. I don't have a problem with that at all. But these other guys, you know, especially when you look at the positions they play, if you're not going to play them at positions, you know, Anthony Barr, Mike Zimmer has said he might play this week against Detroit. He might not. I still maintain Anthony Barr's dead, and it's a body double walking around Egan. Nick Vigil is kind of starting to come back to earth a little bit after a couple really solid games. We talked about the defensive end. It just seems like you would want to know if these guys can play. This isn't, you know, the COVID year from last year where you didn't have any OTAs, you didn't have any mini camps, you didn't have a truncated training camp or preseason. You got a full offseason evaluation of these guys. And it kind of bothers me that the Vikings aren't at least getting them in the rotation. I'm not saying they need to start right now, maybe down the road, but I think when you're 1-3, man, you got to see who can play and who can't play.
It's almost like if you're 3-1, you understand why they're sitting. Don't mess with it. But
exactly.
You're 1-3, man. Get them out there. See what they got.
What do you got to lose except a game to Detroit?
Where do we go? Where do we go?
Exactly.
Where do we go?
So it tells me that Zimmer is just not playing them because they're not one of his guys yet, or they're not good enough to play. And now that just gets into another whole, well, how's the evaluation process and how's the developmental process of these players you pick? Because these guys were good players in college.
Wang Chung hasn't played yet.
I mean, you can't tell me if Dalvin Cook's hurt and Alexander Madison is who he is. He's just kind of a between the tackles guy. He's good, but you can't tell me with Kene Nwangwu's speed, he couldn't potentially be a difference maker if you can scheme a way to get the ball into his hand. The Vikings needed a spark on Sunday, and they never got it. And I was kind of expecting to see him come out and maybe get the ball in the flat and do something. But they didn't play him either. I will throw him into the mix too.
Part of the problem with the Vikings is they continue during games pounding their head into the cement wall. I mean, why not change something around? They scored on the first drive, and they didn't score on the next 11. 11 drives in a row, Ted. 11 in a row.
Yes! 11! The number of the day is 11! Wonderful! I love it!
I don't know what it is. I feel like the monster standing on the wing in that rainstorm looking at Shatner through the window. What are we doing? I don't know. But it leads to the, there's some questions about the defense too, which I don't want to get on too bad because holding a team to 14 is pretty good. But I don't know about the draft picks. Maybe they're going to start easing them in and get them in there in a few weeks. Maybe a few of them will be playing. I don't know.
This is one thing we touched on. Mike Zimmer mentioned it in his post-game press conference. And Mike Zimmer said this, the Browns, how many yards did the Browns rush for?
184, Ted.
184. They averaged 4.8 yards per carry. And the Browns ran 78 offensive plays. Now, they only scored 14 points, but a cynic might argue that if Baker Mayfield hits like 3 passes, this score is like 35-7. Not
he's the reason it wasn't.
Yeah,
he made a lot of mistakes out there.
So in his post-game press conference, he was asked about giving up 185 yards against the Browns. He says, "I'm not discouraged one bit about the lack of stopping the run. At the end of the day, they scored 1 touchdown against us." And then there was a follow-up question. Are you serious? You're really not worried about the run? I can't remember how the question was phrased, but he said, "My experience, I feel fine about it. I feel fine. You guys worry so much about stats and not about how things look and how things are." Now, we gave up a 30-yard run on 3rd and 20. That looked pretty friggin' ugly. That's just my amateur observation. In the 2-minute drill, I'm disgusted about that. Yeah, but for the most part, there were a lot of good things that were happening today.
What, are you kidding me?
You're kidding me. You gotta be kidding me.
Are you kidding me? I mean, are you kidding me?
Are you kidding me?
Are you freaking kidding me?
That's the problem with that guy, Ted. Okay, take the stats out of it. What was good about what I saw? Explain to me what he means by that.
I can't, because here's my thing. In the offseason, Mike Zimmer went and got Michael Pierce and Dalvin Tomlinson and brought Everson Griffin back, and then they redid Danielle Hunter's contract.
They redid the whole defensive line.
Exactly. And all those guys, especially Tomlinson and Pierce and Sheldon Richardson, who they brought in a little bit later, are guys they brought in to do what, Drew?
Stop the run.
Stop the run. Now, let's see how they've done through 4 games. Can I run down the list if you don't mind?
Yeah, and then I want to segue that into my tasty.
I just can't wait to get
So here we go. Against Cincinnati, they gave up 149 yards. Cincinnati averaged 4.1 yards a carry. Arizona, 103 yards, 4.9 yards a carry. 106 yards against Seattle, 5.9 yards a carry. And then 184 and 4.8 against Cleveland. That, if you add all that up, that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
6 billion?
That's a lot of yards given up, and it's close to last in the NFL.
542 yards allowed in 4 games.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
You ready to now I want you this is your TED question of the day. 542 yards allowed. They're 1-3. 542 allowed on the ground, and they revamped the entire defensive line, Ted. Not one guy. All of them are new. I don't know who played there last year. Adenabo, Mataafa, GMAC 72 might have been in there. That tall guy to serve man, he might have been playing a few. Dr. Proto, I saw him in there for a couple games. But 542 yards allowed this year in 4 games. Last year, 220 with the guys I just mentioned. 2020 rushing yards allowed after 4 games. We were 1-3, same record. Remember we had that big win versus Houston. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're on our way now. We beat the Texans. The old defensive line gave up 539, 3 less yards.
Are you kidding me?
That was my tasty tidbit for the day. 542 this year. At this time last year, we had 539 allowed. That's only a 3-yard difference with all new players. Now, my TED question is, why?
that is absolutely baffling to me because the Vikings spent, what, $50 million or however much it was when you add in the Hunter contract, the Pierce, the Tomlinson, and Richardson deals, on bringing these guys in for the sole specific purpose to make the Vikings run defense better. And it's actually worse.
It's actually 3 yards worse. Maybe somebody can put in the comments below what the reason is, because I don't know what that is. When you got Hunter, Pierce, Dal Tomlinson, and thank God Griffin's here because he's pretty much saved the right defensive end spot. Regardless, look at the guys this year, look at last year, and tell me how they've given up more this year.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we've got a Zimmer acolyte from the Church of Zimmertology over there that's going to rush to his defense and say, well, they're new guys and they're trying to get used to playing each other.
Come on.
They play better teams than they played last year. Shut up. Don't comment.
They have increased their pass rush ability. The pass rush is a lot better than it was last year, but you got to increase your run stopping. During the running plays the other teams have, the Vikings have missed 30 tackles this year. It's almost dead last in the NFL.
God. You didn't happen to do a comparison how much they missed this time last year, did you?
No, I did not. I did not go that in depth because my paycheck won't allow it. But my point is, you can get there. You can get there all you want, but if you don't tackle, it's not worth getting there. So a lot of these plays, they might be in position to make the tackle, Ted, but they've missed 30. They've missed 30 on the run plays. If you add the passing secondary, how many tackles the secondary's missed? It's probably damn near 70 total. On running plays, they've missed 30 tackles, which means on a lot of them, they've been in position to make the tackle. They've been in position to hold the guy to a lesser gain than he got, and they can't get the tackling done. Maybe it's the tackling.
That's unbelievable. That is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, when you look at the stats, it's believable. But when you look at the personnel, even down in the depth, we thought that the defensive line was going to be one of the strengths of this team coming into 2021. And it is absolutely one of the biggest weaknesses so far through 4 games. I mean, there's just no other way around it. You know, Mike Zimmer, in his, I think it was his Monday press conference, they followed up again and said, look, no, really, you don't care about being so terrible against the run was basically the question. And he said against Cleveland, no, they're a good running football team, and they ran 78 offensive plays.
Oh, you guys are all stat guys, but when you look at it, would they have 78 plays yesterday? You know, you're going to have some of those where you're going to get some yards, and that team is probably as good a running team as there is in the league.
Oh, okay, that's fair. But I would argue if you're not giving up 5, 6, or 7 yards on first down and the Browns are driving the field and then Baker Mayfield poops his pants and makes a bad throw. And they can't score any points, and they had a 35, like their time of possession was like 34, 35 minutes in the game.
Yeah.
That's the reason they ran 78 plays, because you couldn't get them off the field. Because your run defense sucks.
because what you just told me was, he said, well, we knew they were a good running team. Well, they game plan for it. Come on. How many times were the Vikings stacking the box saying, we're going to put 10 guys up here. You're not going to beat us we're going to force you to pass. They weren't even doing that.
No.
Look if they stopped the run, Mayfield made a ton of mistakes that game. If you stop the run, you're probably winning that game because he didn't have a good game.
He didn't. He made consistently bad throws all day long. I would argue Baker Mayfield was the best defensive player for the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday.
He made so many bad plays, he was keeping the Vikings in the game.
So you've got this terrible run defense, which is close to last in the NFL. You've got a 1-3 start. You got Kirk Cousins coming back down to earth. You got Mike Zimmer just kind of saying weird stuff like this, where when he got hired, he said, you know, we're going to run the ball and we're not going to let people run against us. And now he doesn't. He's good about being terrible against the run. This leads to my Drew Bunting question of the week.
You called it Kitty Carryall of the Twilight Zone?
Yeah.
Kitty Carryall was Cindy Brady's doll, bro. Not that it matters at this juncture of the show.
Oh, my God, it was.
What's the Drew question of the day? Hit me. Shoot the Drew question of the day.
With all that backdrop, do you think the wheels are coming off for the Minnesota Vikings or not?
No, they're going to, as you'll see in my preview, I'll just give it away right now. The Vikings are going to win this week, and everybody can hoist Zimmer up on their shoulders. We're back. We're going to, same old. This is a Zimmer win. If they lose to the Lions, the wheels are off, dude, and like the cars get tumbling down the cliff in the movie.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's way worse than last year.
No survivors. I'm going to say no still. I'm going to say no and hold belief in my team, which is probably dumb on my part, pretty naive on my part. What do you think? Do you think the wheels are off? Does it feel like it to you?
It does to me, yeah. I didn't expect 4-0 out of the gate. I mean, they had 2 tough road games. I thought they would split those, and I thought they would at least hold service or go 500 at home. So I expected at least 2-2, and then hopefully get to maybe at least be 3-3, or maybe catch a lucky break with like the Seattle win they had, and go 4-2 into the break, and then come out of the bye with kind of the wind at their sails with all their divisional games still left and a real fighting chance. 4-2 obviously is not going to happen now. The best they can do is 3-3. It feels like it's going south,
Yeah.
Anthony Barr still isn't playing. Dalvin Cook's dinged up already. Kirk had 3 great games, and now he's kind of fallen back to earth.
Ted, doesn't it seem like, that laminated thing that the coaches hold, the laminated thing with the plays on it or whatever's on there?
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem like when the Vikings, right when the big important part of the fourth quarter is coming, doesn't it seem like our laminated piece of paper, they're looking for something what can I do to mess this up? What can I do to make a critical error to mess this? Doesn't it seem like they game plan for that one big stupid thing?
There's like the pre-bad play and then the post-bad play.
Always!
Game plan. And then, okay, so we've had our setback. Okay, now let's pull out the sheet that tells us how to just go in the tank from here. All right, let's run Cook up the middle twice, lose 2 yards. Kirk will throw 6 yards short of the Farker, and then we'll punt. And then we'll give up a 5-play, 95-yard drive. It'll be game over. Break on 3. 1, 2, 3, break.
Hey, things are looking good right now. Give me that laminated sheet of mistakes. Give me the
laminated sheet of mistakes.
The laminated sheet of mistakes, because you can't just have good things happen. Something bad has to happen all the time. Stop.
Yeah. I saw a stat where Mike Zimmer against teams that finished the season at 500 or above is 17-41 win-loss record since he became coach.
That is wrong.
I mean, what more do you need to know about Mike Zimmer? If that's what you get, is that what you want to keep running? I don't see the point anymore, to be quite honest, but that's just me. You know what to me the mark of a good team is? A team that has a bad day and still finds a way to win, especially on the road. And the Cleveland Browns did that. And the mark of a bad team is catching a good team on a bad day at home and still not figuring out a way to win. That, to me, is the difference between the Minnesota Vikings and the good teams in the NFL right now.
That's smart thinking, Smitty.
So that is our Vikings wrap-up for the week. It is time to move on to our fantasy football segment. Going into this week, we got 2 little segments. We got a season-long thing going against our buddies over at Vikings Uncensored, the Rhinoceros, and the Bruno. The last Bruno.
They got the better of us this week, I think, Ted.
Ryan Johnson and Lance Bruns, yeah. So there's one reason why we lost. Because last week I talked a little bit of smack. And I said we were going to hit a 17-game winning streak or whatever it was, and we got thumped pretty good.
Between that and you playing Derek Carr, you did us in.
Yeah. Well, I did. I don't know. We were one good quarterback away from being 3-1.
They haven't given us too much crap in the last 24 hours, but they thumped us pretty good. 175 to 144. So they got a 30-point win on us this week. We're 2-2.
All right. And so that leads into our fantasy football segment. As you know, if you've been following the show, Drew, Toonces, and myself have a season-long fantasy football competition going on. So what we do is we pick 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, and 1 tight end every week. We can only pick those players 1 time throughout the year. So if we pick them and they end up as a late scratch, we can't do a late substitution. We get 0 points for that week. The individual that has the most points for that week wins, and whoever has the most at the end of the season wins the fantasy football competition. But this is where you come in. Every week in the comments below here on our YouTube page, not on Facebook, not on Twitter, not anywhere else, but on our comments section below, you look at our teams and you think who's going to win. And then you put Team Toonces, Team Ted, or Team Drew. And if you pick the most winners, you win a prize from the Vikings Report with Drew and Ted prize vault, and this prize is going to be a set of football cards framed up. Looks really, really nice. Vikings all-time greats. Who's on that plaque, Drew?
Chuck Foreman, Fred Tarkenton, Carl Eller, Chris Carter, Robert Smith, Alan Page, Ahmad Rashad, Adrian Peterson, and Bashad Breeland.
You're not getting Waswas or Wonga.
No, you're not getting Chris
Krinsky.
You're not on there. They are not on there. Dave Huffman isn't on there either. Or the great Buster Rhymes. He's not on there. Remember Buster Rhymes now?
Yeah.
The great
or Jarvis Redwine.
Oh, the great Nebraska. Jarvis Redwine. He's going to break the all-time record. 2 years later, he's working at Michelin Tires.
Last week's fantasy football winner.
Last 2 weeks.
Last 2 weeks, 2 in a row, yeah.
Come on, don't cut me no shyness, brother. Let's get it right. The last 2 weeks,
right.
I've had the lesser amount of votes the last 2 weeks, and I've won both weeks. 2 weeks ago, I had 3 people vote for me. Who won? Me. Last week, we had 20 people play the contest. 20 people. 19 of them either picked you or Toonces. 1 person picked my team, and who won? Me. And I came through with 83.25. Nick Howard got a standalone victory. So he gets a point in the standings. Nobody else gets anything because why?
You know, one thing I love about doing this show with you, you are so humble and gracious in victory.
I am, huh?
It's just, man, it's just inspiring. It's flat out inspiring.
I never try to gloat or take advantage of my prowess for picking. I won't rub it in. I'm not the type of guy who rubs it in, Ted.
That's what she said.
Well, since you're a champion rubber there, Urban Meyer, why don't you tell us who your team is first? One thing before we go, we just agreed amongst ourselves not to pick anybody from the Thursday night game because if somebody were to go off of the Thursday night game, it could just skew that week. So we are abstaining from the Thursday night game. And this week, it is the Los Angeles Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. So there's some good players that we weren't eligible to pick if we hadn't picked them already. So
I'll go first. My quarterback, and believe me, I'm on a 2-game win streak. I'm pulling out some big guns so I can make it 3.
All right, Urban.
Again, humble.
Keep rubbing, Herb.
I'm going to grind it out like Urban Meyer. My quarterback is Kirk Cousins. My running back is Derrick Henry. One of my wide receivers is Adam Thielen. My other wide receiver is Jamar Chase from the Bengals. And my tight end is Dawson Knox from the Bills.
Wow. Okay.
That is my starting 5. That is my 3-game winning streak. And that is my team.
Toonces, who do you got?
All right. Kirk Cousins, Derrick Henry, wide receiver 1, Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 2, DJ Moore, and tight end Mark Andrews.
None of the players that you guys have picked so far are on my team for this week.
Good. I like it mixed up. Toots has copied 2 of mine, so there's nothing I can do about that.
By the way, if you're just joining us, still join and enter the contest because there is no runaway winner after 4 games.
No, there is not. 2 wins. That's what the leaders have. 2.
But this week, my quarterback is Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys. Running back, Saquon Barkley of the Giants. My wide receivers are A.J. Brown from Tennessee and Calvin Ridley from Atlanta. And my tight end, T.J. Hawkinson of the Detroit Lions.
Ted Glover, we got 3 really good lines. It's going to be hard to choose this week.
Yeah, I think we got some good lineups. It is preview time.
Wide open is Diggs. He leaps for it in the end zone. Touchdown, Vikings.
Rodgers is upset, and Wilson keeps moving. In the 3rd quarter, Wade Wilson from the shotgun to his burner, number 81, Anthony Carter, and he is long gone for a touchdown.
Right in place of Carl Sweetan. This pass intended for Kramer, but it's intercepted by Dale Hackbart.
This coming Sunday, at home at U.S. Bank Stadium, the Minnesota Vikings take on the winless 0-4 Detroit Lions.
Ask it now.
What else? Am I going to be promoted, for Pete's sake?
Yeah, so speaking of intangibles, we are going to do our NFL Today tribute preview. Ruby's putting the graphics up on the board, and you can see all the categories we have. And down here at the very bottom, we have Intangibles, which I love. That was like the greatest category ever. The first category is quarterback. It is Jared Goff versus Kirk Cousins. Oh, before we get into it, we've got a real quick injury update. My bad. Michael Pierce is having an MRI on his elbow. If you remember, he missed a good chunk of the Browns game. Dalvin Cook aggravated that ankle in the Browns game. Mike Zimmer said on Monday he looked good. We'll see how the injury report plays out, but keep an eye on Dalvin Cook's ankle and whether or not he plays, what his status is going to be. We've mentioned Anthony Barr. Mike Zimmer has said in his Monday press conference it looks like Anthony Barr, after 11 years, 9 months, and 207 days, is going to play a game of football for the Minnesota Vikings. That's good to see. Welcome back, Tony. Double five, double nickel. And Cameron Dantzler, who finally got enough apps to be graded by PFF, and he ranked out as the 6th best cornerback in the NFL, promptly came down with COVID and will probably miss Sunday's game. So we are going to run it back with Bashad, third-degree burn Breeland. Let's go. Bashad, face melt Breeland.
I don't get it. That confuses me. Another confused moment where I feel like Ronnie Millsap in a corn maze. I am confused about that. I am confused about the whole Breeland thing. Don't ask me any questions about it.
That leads to our preview with the Lions. Drewster, why don't you kick us off with quarterback?
Got to go Kirk Cousins here, Ted Glover, right out the gate. Two big things going for Cousins this week, I think, Ted. Coming off that horrible game against Cleveland, where he looked skittish and he didn't look comfortable in the pocket. He had a lot of pressure, but I think he had some throws he could have made, even under the pressure, but wasn't a good game for him. And he has killed the Lions since he's been a Viking. Since Kirk Cousins came to Minnesota, he's never lost to the Lions, and here are his stats. 128 for 174 for 73% completion, 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns, and only 1 interception in 6 games. And he's 6-0. Kirk Cousins gets the check mark here, Ted.
Yep, totally agree. I will say if you statistically look at Jared Goff versus Kirk Cousins, very similar numbers so far this year. Very similar numbers. But at home, Kirk has just eaten the Lions alive. Yeah, I give it to Kirk. The run game. We mentioned Dalvin Cook. That's something to monitor. So if Cook can't go or is limited, once again, we'll see Alexander Madison. We will also see Amir Abdullah. And we probably won't see Kene Wangwu because he might be good, and we don't want anything good getting out on the field at the most opportune times. So whatever. We'll activate him. He'll look good sitting on the bench.
Lord knows we don't want to do that, Ted.
But that said, DeAndre Swift, a guy who a lot of people thought was going to be the workhorse back for the Lions, hurt his groin. So that's going to be something to watch as well. Even if the Swift and Cook injuries negate each other out, I still like the Vikings running game here.
The Lions seem to be doing the committee thing this year with Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift.
Mm-hmm.
Williams has 42 carries and Swift has 41. That's almost identical. Both teams are rushing for a little over 100 yards, so they're probably not where either team wants to be rushing the football. I know certainly the Vikings want to have more yards on the ground. But Swift seems to be the go-to guy for the receiving end, and Williams seems to be doing the majority of his damage on rushing. Very slight edge mark to the Vikings here because the home run ball. I talk about it every week, and I'm big on it. When you got a guy who can score when he touches it, that's more often than not going to get you the check mark. And Cook, if he plays, Cook has that home run ability and the big chunk yardage ability. I give a slight edge, give my check mark to the Vikings.
Receiving game.
After 2 kind of meh games by Justin Jefferson, he is tearing the league a bunger. He is ripping it up, Ted. The last 2 games, 15 catches, 202 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He's been targeted 18 times in the last 2 weeks. 18! So Cousins is feeling pretty greedy.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you about Detroit. I don't know any of their wide receivers. Maybe you could clue me in. I'm pretty sure Ron Jesse's not there, or Herman Moore, or your buddy Brian Stabline, who used to party with at Ohio State. You and Stabline, Brian Stabline. I do not think he's there anymore. I give the check here to the Vikings.
The only advantage I think in this receiving game I see for Detroit would be T.J. Hawkinson. In the wide receiver room, Calvin Johnson ain't walking through that door. Herman Moore ain't walking through that door. Wayne Fontes might come in to say hi, but he ain't probably walking through that door either. Kenny Galladay's gone. Marvin Jones is gone.
Yeah.
Definite advantage Minnesota Vikings. All right, offensive line. This is a battle of nitwits, man. This is like, it really is. It's the movable object versus the resistible force. The Lions, like one of the strengths the Lions were supposed to have this year on this team was their offensive line. Frank Ragnow got hurt last week. Not sure what his status is for this weekend. We've talked about the Vikings offensive line. I still think when you put like Brian O'Neill compared to whoever else anybody Detroit has, I think Oli Udoh is playing pretty good for the most part. I'm going to give the check barely to the Vikings here.
I am in agreement with you, Ted. I think fully healthy, you got to give the Lions the check mark going from left to right with Sewell and Taylor and Decker and your buddy Jonah Jackson from Ohio State. He's in there.
Yeah.
I think healthy, I'd probably give the check mark to the Lions, but they're totally beat up.
They are.
Their offensive line is totally beat up, and I see the Vikings are really going to be able to exploit that offensive line with the injuries they have up front. The Vikings offensive line is coming off a terrible game. When you're coming off a terrible game, you have a lot more oomph. You're going to give it a shot. So I'm giving the check mark to the Vikings offensive line. With the poor performance last week, I see they're going to bounce back.
Drew, hit us up on the defensive line.
Hunter, Tomlinson, Griffin, and Pierce combined for 10 sacks. Guess how many the Lions defensive line has, Ted?
5.
1.5.
Okay.
1.5. But I know they run the 3-4. 10 sacks to 1.5. They're really beat up on both sides of it. So the defensive line goes to the check mark to the Vikings.
Same here. I mean, we talked about how bad the Vikings run defense is. There's a saving grace is that they have a lot more sacks than they did this time last year. And the thing is, these are good football players. They're just not playing good football. And at some point, I would hope, when a slump buster like Detroit comes to town, you can get healthy. And maybe this will be the game to do it. So, I'm going to go with the Vikings defense. Linebackers. Boy, we talk about injuries, and the Lions are hurt bad there. Trey Flowers got hurt. Romeo Okwara, their main pass-rushing linebacker on the outside, ruptured his Achilles. He is out for the year. It's another unit that is really devastated with injury. With Barr allegedly coming back, I'll believe it when I see it. And Kendricks and Vigil, I got to give it to the Vikings here.
I, too, am giving the check mark to the Vikings because the Lions are not only beat up, also Trey Flowers, I don't know if he's playing either. So they have a lot of injuries. I mean, you should beat this team straight up, but with all the injuries in the Lions, it seems like the Vikings should be able to roll. Linebackers, they get my check. The Vikings, they did not have, as you mentioned earlier in the show, they did not have a good game against the Browns, but like the O-line didn't have a good game, or the D, nobody had a good game. So that gives them an extra umph to come kick some ass this week. So my check mark for linebackers goes to the Vikings.
All right, what are your thoughts on the secondary?
I'm all for their execution, Ted.
Okay, Brian Kelly.
Both secondaries allow right around 250 yards through the air. I don't know what's going on. What a bust with Okudah, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
They do have a Warrior. He's really good corner. He's probably their best corner. He'll probably be drawing Justin Jefferson. So we'll have to see how that battle kind of mans out. Bobby Price is your other corner. Detroit has very, very young safeties with Walker and Will Harris. I think they're going to be exploited by the route running of Thielen and Jefferson. They're going to have a tough time back there. I think there's going to be a lot of open targets for Kirk Cousins. The Viking safeties played really well. I'm going to give the Vikings a slight check mark on the secondary, Ted.
I'm going to give it to Detroit because the Vikings secondary sucks. They just flat out suck. I don't care. I don't care who Detroit has. You went over their guys, and I think they have some, like you said, I think they have some challenges ahead of them on Sunday covering Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne, and who thought KJ Osborne was going to be the breakout player this year after 4 games for the Vikings? Cam Dantzler just started playing well, and now he's out with COVID, so you got to run it back with Bashaud Breeland, who is literally the worst cornerback in football. You got Patrick Peterson, was just average at best.
He's not
Harrison Smith. Everybody was really happy when Harrison Smith signed his extension. He has not impressed me so far this year. Xavier Woods has played good at times, but he hasn't looked great either. In good conscience, I just can't give this check to the Vikings right now. They are not a good unit right now. They have got to get better. Hopefully we'll see some improvement against Detroit, but for now, I'm going to give the check mark to the Lions. All right, red zone, fairly close to statistically. The one thing that sticks out for me, that's what she said. I'm sorry, that's terrible. I'm perpetually 12. I'm sorry. The Lions defense has given up 10 touchdowns in 12 trips to the red zone. That's just flat out bad. That's not good. Offensively, the Lions and the Vikings are pretty close in converting when they get in the red zone. The Vikings defense isn't much better. They've got 7 touchdowns and 10 trips, but I'm going to give the red zone advantage here to the Vikings.
Ted, I'm going to make this very easy for you. The Lions are like dead last in the NFL in red zone defense. You know what? If you listed the 129 college football teams in red zone defense, they'd be about 102 on that list. They are not good in the red zone. The Vikings are going to exploit it. Cooker's going to have a couple touchdowns, and the Vikings are going to put up some points. It's simply, I'm more intrigued with the sound of Cousins to Thielen than Goff to Orifice or Von Cephas or Rah Brown. I mean,
Baron Von Raschke.
Doesn't it? That's more intriguing than the Viking names down in there. You got to give the Vikings a red zone check here.
Yep. All right. Special teams. Drew, go ahead.
You're so professional, bro. Vikings are playing much better on teams this year.
Yeah.
Not near as many bonehead plays or problems that they had last year, at least in my eyes. It doesn't seem like every week I'm saying, what is wrong with the special teams? Barry is a solid-ass punter. They're on their second kicker. I don't know what's going on with their kicker. They had a new guy in there, Santoso, which is, I thought that was the brother on The Godfather, James Caan's guy. Was it Santucci? Santucci or something? They have a new kicker. Vikings get my special teams check mark, which isn't going to happen a lot this year.
Yeah, I do too. Vikings coverage is better. Their punters, Barry, is really good. I still don't think Greg Joseph, even though he missed that easy kick in Arizona, I think he's a better kicker here. I give the check to the Vikings as well. All right, coaching. Yeah, there's not a lot of times I'm going to give Mike Zimmer a check over the opponent head coach. Dan Campbell, 0-4. The dude is a quote machine. I will give him the fact he is an absolute quote machine, and he reminds me a lot of Mike Tyson his first year. I love Mike Tice. I thought Mike Tice got a raw deal when he was here. He never got the budget to get a full-up assistant coaching staff put together. He got better every year, but, man, he struggled for in 2002. The Vikings were just not a good football team in 2002. He had to learn a lot on the job. Dan Campbell, I think, has at least been a coordinator before. Mike Tice had not even been that. I'm going to give the advantage right now to Mike Zimmer, which I didn't want to do. I wanted to give Dan Campbell the check just because he's a quote machine. When we get up, we're going to bite your kneecap off. Dude, say stuff like that more often. Just say stuff like that every week.
Great saying.
And I'll be a fan.
Mike Zimmer gets my check mark today. These are the games Zimmer wins. He's going to win this game. Everything's fine. Rah, here we go. This is the type of game he wins, especially coming off that horrible loss. Dan Campbell's still trying to figure it out. Zimmer gets my check mark, but he's not going to get a lot of check marks from me this year probably, but he gets this one today.
All right. And then now my favorite subject, Drew, give us your intangibles.
No, you got to say it. Hey.
Intangibles.
There we go. I only got 2 this week, Ted. Detroit injuries, I think, are going to play a big part into this game. They are really beat up at the key spots on defense and 2 guys on the O-line. They're beat up there. They got a lot of injuries. I think that the Vikings will be able to exploit those certain matchups with those injuries. Also, one thing I want to mention you want to look at this game, keep an eye on the Detroit running backs for catching the football. They got 36 catches between them. DeAndre Swift has 23 catches already. So they use that as a big part of their offense, just like Cleveland did with Hunt, 3rd and 12. I'm looking at the TV. Watch the screen. Watch the screen. Watch the screen. Hunt catches it, gets 13 yards. So Zimmer, watch the screen with Swift. He catches a lot of balls out of the backfield. Those are my intangibles. I gave a check mark to the Vikings, though.
We got 2 intangibles. One is the Lions' injuries. They are just a beat-up football team, and it's not going to get any better anytime soon. They're 0-4, and they've lost a game in just a couple brutal ways. But I will say they played 4 fairly competitive games, at least 3.5 fairly competitive games. They got kind of blown out against the second half against the Packers. But they're 0-4, but they're a tough out. But with the Vikings at home and with all the injuries Detroit has and Dan Campbell still kind of learning how to be an NFL coach, learning on the job, I give the intangibles to the Vikings here.
These are 2 teams that make a lot of mistakes. Who is going to make more crucial plays? We talk about it, 4 or 5 plays every game, swings a game. Yep. Who is going to get the 4 or 5 better plays?
All right, so that's our preview. So I assume you're giving the game to the Vikings?
Check mark. I gave every check mark to the Vikings here and give the Lions 1.
And now it's time for Jumo, just one old man's opinion.
Started out 0-1 with that Bengals Jumo, and I called that one wrong. But since that Bengals game, I've called every game correctly. Jumo is on fire. The Lions give up 30 points a game, Ted. 250 yards allowed in the air, 132 on the ground. They give up a lot of yards. And I don't see the high-powered Viking offense getting shut down 2 weeks in a row. I don't. I like the Vikings like a 2-touchdown. I like 35-21 area. What's kind of surprising is the Lions' third down defense percentage. They only allow 27% conversion rate on third down, which is really strange for a team that's 0-4, which means they give up a lot. That translates into a lot of big plays. The Vikings can make the big play either by Cook, Justin Jefferson. Expect some really big plays out of the Vikings this week. I expect them to win by 14, between 10 and 14. This is a game Zimmer wins, 34-20, somewhere around there. I got the Vikings.
All right, so this is my purple Kool-Aid segment, but you know what? I'm not pulling out any Kool-Aid this week. I'm not pulling out any tepid water.
You walk into this room at your own risk, because it leads to the future. Not a future that will be, but one that might be.
I'm flat out pissed off at the Minnesota Vikings for being 1-3. If a guy needs to drink purple Kool-Aid to think they can beat the Detroit Lions, then just burn everything to the ground and start over. Just burn everything to the ground and start over. You got a guy that eats kneecaps as your opposing head coach. I don't need any purple Kool-Aid to think the Vikings are going to get over the hump. If I do, I should not be a Minnesota Vikings fan any longer because this is a terrible, terrible football team that they are playing against a not very good football team right now in the Minnesota Vikings. I will say this. Drew, you think it's going to be a pretty comfortable win.
Yeah, I do.
I think the Vikings are going to win, but I think it's going to be one of those. And how many times have we said it before that the Vikings play down to the level of their competition? You look at this game on paper and you think this is a game the Vikings should win 31-14, 31-17. Mike Zimmer, this is what's going to happen. Mike Zimmer is going to get a 10-0 lead, maybe a 17-3 lead, something like that. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to go more conservative than Jerry Falwell in a room full of nuns. That's what Mike Zimmer's going to do. And he's going to run the ball, and he's going to run the ball, and he's going to throw short of the sticks on 3rd down and 7. He's going to get 6 yards, and they're going to punt, and they're going to play field position.
Three and out.
And then what's going to happen? Jared Goff is going to be falling backwards, about sacked. He's going to throw up a Hail Mary, and somebody is going to be left all alone. Cyclops St. Ignatius, whatever the hell that dude's name is. And he's going to be uncovered by like 50 yards, and he's going to score a touchdown. And the next thing you know, with 4 minutes to go, it's going to be 17-14, and we are biting our fingernails wondering, can the Minnesota Vikings beat the Detroit friggin' Lions? And they're going to pull it out at the very end of the game, and everybody's going to go, whoa, Mike Zimmer's back, baby, 2-3. We're going to L.A. I'm going to be just pissed off. I'm going to be pissed off the whole week. That's how this game's going to go down. Vikings win barely. Purple Kool-Aid will be back next week, maybe, but not this week. Anyway, so that's our preview. We are going to take a commercial break, and we will be back with trivia to wrap the show up.
You see this? It holds a promise for anyone who smokes. It's Oasis. And as its name implies, it promises you the most refreshing, the softest taste of all. Try Oasis. I think you'll like it. This cigarette, Chesterfield King, gives all the advantages of extra length and much more. The great taste of 21 vintage tobaccos grown mild, aged mild, and blended mild. No wonder they satisfy so completely.
My name is Talking Tina, and I don't think I like you. My name is Talking Tina, and I love you very much. My name is Talking Tina, and I'm going to kill you.
Welcome to Toonces Trivia. How you guys doing?
Good, Toonces. How are you?
Good, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Today, we are going to play Jeopardy. Same as last week. You guys are going to collaborate on your answers. We have 3 categories. Twilight Zone, Vikings, Lions, and Identity. All right, let's start with Twilight Zone.
In Nick of Time, what does the first card say that William Shatner gets from the mystic seer at the diner table?
I can't remember. I don't know.
I remember they ordered a bologna sandwich. Try again, or something along those lines.
It is quite possible. Next question. What is the name of the very first episode?
Is someone watching?
Works for me. I don't know.
Where is everybody? You guys don't know as much about Twilight Zone as you thought you did, do you?
I don't know titles of any shows.
All right, next question. In the episode The Invaders, tiny little robots from a flying saucer attack an old lady living by herself for no reason. What do you see printed on the saucer at the end of the episode?
United States Air Force. What it is.
I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Good job. All right, next one. In Living Doll, what is the name of the doll?
And it's not Kitty Carryall. That's from Brady Bunch.
I don't think Kitty Carryall was Cindy's doll.
It's Carrie something though.
If we get Carrie, then we're good.
Talkie Tina.
That Talking Tina. Murderer. We're 1 and 3.
You guys got 1 out of 3, or 1 out of 4.
1 and 3, Ted.
We're 1 and 3. I'm fine with it. I don't have a problem with it.
I don't see any problem with the way you guys are answering questions.
Thank you very much.
All right, Vikings Lions. First one. Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff have 1,121 yards and 1,100 yards passing. Which one of them has the 1,121?
Cousins has more, just barely.
I'll go with that.
That is correct. Good job.
Love it.
All right.
That's 2.
Number 2. DeAndre Swift and Alexander Madison have 145 and 139 rushing. Who has the 145?
Well, Madison had 112 against Seattle, right? And he had 20, 32.
I'm going to say Swift has 145.
Okay.
Madison has more than the starting running back. That is pretty impressive. All right, third question. Who has more receiving yards so far? Justin Jefferson or all 3 of the Lions wide receivers combined?
The Lions wide receivers have, I think, 36 catches. I don't know their yard total, though, Ted. I guess I'm going to say Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
All right, that was a trick question.
Darn it.
All right. Last Vikings Lions. Who has more offensive TDs so far this season, the Lions or the Vikings?
I think Detroit does, actually.
Drew?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
The Vikings have 1 more.
Oh, God. We're like the 2020 Vikings. It just keeps getting worse.
The Spielman's watching this right now, wants to give us a contract.
That's guaranteed, probably. Yeah, play defensive line.
Put the guy from To Serve Man. All right, we're going to sweep this. If we sweep this, we win it.
So, I'm going to show you a picture, and you just tell me who it is.
All right.
Who am I?
Lem Barney?
Lem Barney. Lem Barney.
I don't know.
That is Dick Lane.
Oh, Night Train Lane.
All right, next. Who am I?
That's JJ, isn't it?
Golden Tate? I don't know. They have another. Nate Burleson.
Oh, Calvin Johnson.
Who am I?
That is Chris Dolman.
Yep, it sure is.
Good job.
Next.
That's Randy Moss.
That's Randy Moss.
I knew you guys were going to get that. You guys did pretty good. That's okay. We'll do better next time. Thank you for playing. We'll see you next week.
Super Bowl, homeboy.
Thank you, Toonces, for putting that together. I know it wasn't easy. She always does a great job on
She does. She does. Thank you,
Great
Toonces, very much. Another great trivia. That'll about wrap it up for another episode of Vikings Report with Drew and Ted. Again, thanks so much for tuning in and for watching and for subscribing. If you're not subscribed, if you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe to the channel here on YouTube. Just hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Facebook, Vikings Report, Drew and Ted. You can follow us on Twitter at ReportTed, ReportTed, 2 T's. You can follow me on Twitter at Purple Buckeye. Drew is the smart one of the bunch. He's not on Twitter. Stay that way, amigo. Don't do it. It's not worth it. It's a terrible, awful place. It's like the wasteland Burgess Meredith found himself in. Except there's no books. It's just stupid takes. That's all it is. Anyways, thank you so much. You can't thank you enough for everything. Liz and Toonces, thanks for the production. Drew, thanks for being a great co-host. You guys make this job easy. Thank you. Drew, take us home.
Excellent episode. Thanks, Ted, for the great job. Play our fantasy football game. Pick one of our teams, whichever one thinks is going to win the week. If you win the week, then you win next week and stack up wins. You win this at the end of the season. We still have our over-under. Well, people haven't forgot. That'll happen at the end of the season. I want to remind people that we didn't just forget about that game. That game's already kind of in the books, so to speak. Look for us this Sunday after the Vikings kick Detroit's ass. Look for Vikings Rewind, Be Kind, Rewind, best post-game show in the business. Thank you so much for joining us last week. Thank you for watching this episode. Shout out to Twilight Zone. Shout out to Toonces. Enjoy your Viking game. And say goodnight, Ted.
Good night, Ted.
Shaka da 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 da.